So it looks like recently that whole conversation of 9 to 5 job versus streaming, having a real job versus being a content creator has come up once again. And I feel like every time this comes up, it gets a lot of people heated. There's the streamer saying how hard it is to do content creation because of figuring out ideas and you can fall off at any moment. And then obviously there's people who counter that they have to do manual labor, deal with people in like service jobs, retail and things like that, and they also don't really get to choose when they want to take a break, as well as not getting paid a lot of money, which I think is the main thing. So the clip that started up this conversation again on Twitter was from the streamer Snowcone. I understand her to be a gaming streamer that also does some IRL content, and I did watch her a little bit during Streamer University, the event hosted by Kaisenat. I was watching that, and I was watching Snowcone's POV for a little bit, but she has been getting fried on the timeline after her take got clipped, so let's go ahead and see what she had to say.
Y'all know how expensive it is to keep up with content creation? You can get a 10K check from Twitch. What the fuck is a 10K check when you gotta spend 5K on trips just to travel, $500 on setup shit, fucking $2,000 on your rent, fucking $200 on Wi-Fi, $200 on IRL toolkit, you gotta pay the clippers, pay a YouTube editor. Chat, I don't think y'all realizing I be going into negative doing this shit, okay?
So immediately this is going to sound very tone deaf to a lot of normal people who do not make $10,000 a month, which is the majority of people, of course. $10,000 a month is a lot of money. And the problem is a lot of the expenses that she listed off, she doesn't really need to pay, or they could be a lot cheaper. Like for example, $5,000 to travel. If you have a $10,000 monthly paycheck, what exactly are you spending $5,000 a month to travel for? At that point, you just need to stream at the setup or just drive a car. Like, is she going international? Is she flying across the country, coast to coast? $5,000 monthly? That just seems like a little bit too much, even if you're doing some IRL streaming. And then $2,000 on rent, I think that that's like the most normal expense here. $500 on the stream setup. I don't really know what you're adding to the setup every month that would cost $500. Maybe if you're breaking your setup to clip farm, you know, like Jinxie, punching your camera, your monitor, maybe breaking your keyboard a few times, maybe then it makes sense. $500 a month so you can fix your setup after you destroy it. I feel like once you have your setup, your PC, maybe a streaming PC, the webcam, some lights, your mic, things like that, it pretty much just stays the same. You don't really need to add a bunch of stuff to it. $400 for Wi-Fi / the IRL toolkit. Don't know what IRL toolkit is. By the sound of it, it's probably something that IRL streamers use when they're out and about. So looking at the page for IRL toolkit, it looks like it's a software that helps IRL streamers like stay connected to their stream when the connection wavers, which I've seen this a lot of times. The connection will get pretty bad when they're walking around outside, and then there will be like a be right back screen. So I guess it helps IRL streamers stay connected and stream at a high bitrate, 1080p, 60 FPS, all that stuff. But looking at the prices, this is what it says. The standard is $129 a month and the advanced is $179 a month. And combining that with fiber, like for me, I have 1 gigabit upload download and that's $80 a month, 70, 80. So I don't really know where the $400 figure is coming from. And again, it's not as if you necessarily need to have IRL toolkit in the first place. I mean, there's probably a lot of IRL streamers that aren't really using this. If it actually makes your stream that much better though, and your stream is making money, then there's no reason to complain about the cost of this. And then paying editors. And I don't really get that point either, because usually you're only going to pay editors if you're making more money from the video, then you have to pay the editors. Like if the videos aren't making any profit, then you should just edit your own videos until they get big enough where they're making that kind of money. I mean, it's really not that hard. Being a content creator full-time is a very privileged position, and getting paid $10,000 a month, that's enough to continue doing the content full-time, and if you can't really support yourself on that, you're probably just being very inefficient and wasting money. And the replies are just baking her. Get a car, everybody has rent, you don't need an expensive setup, Wi-Fi is $60 a month, learn to edit, it's not hard at all. Can't budget on $120K a year? Literally skill issue. She sure do got the brain of a snow cone, that's for sure. This broad is financially irresponsible and stupid. How do you squander 10K? She lives with her mom, by the way, she's just making up these numbers. Imagine spending $60K a year on travel. And yeah, I feel like, obviously, if you're a content creator, whatever you're doing should be very lucrative if you're going to be spending money on it. If it ends up being a loss month over month, then maybe you should just do something else. I think that that's part of being a content creator, is managing your expenses if you're investing the money that you make into more content. Yeah, you might need a budget for travel if you're going to be doing IRL streams, but then it would make sense to just invest in a car and travel to local areas for your IRL content. And if you need to to be in a different place, like, I don't know, you live in Texas and you're trying to fly to LA or Miami, round trips within the country don't cost so much that you would end up spending $5,000 on travel in that month. Unless you're staying at a luxury hotel or something, it's really not necessary to spend that much money, even if you're going to stream at some event that's out of your state. Unless she's doing a world tour like I Show Speed or something, I really don't think it's necessary to be spending $5,000 a month on travel. $2,000 on rent, I saw somebody say that she lived with her mother. If that's the case, then maybe you're not even paying rent. If you're paying her rent, then okay, that makes sense, but even then, you could choose to live in an area that's cheaper. But that's the one expense where it's like, okay, that's reasonable. That's the one you're always going to have, right? You need to pay to live somewhere. $500 for the setup. Again, after you pay for the setup one time, you have the setup. Maybe now and then you add a little thing to the setup, but it's not going to be $500 monthly. $400 Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi shouldn't be that expensive. I have fiber and it's like $70. And once again, if your videos aren't making that much money, you do not need to be paying editors. People pay editors when they're making a lot of money on their videos, and it saves them time and energy to use an editor instead of doing it themselves, which opens up time to focus on their stream. There'd be more people that call this out. Scooch saying, $5,000 on travel? Baby girl, where the frick are you going? The PC is right in front of you. Twitch pays monthly. She is earning $10,000 monthly, which is $120,000 a year. Literally, how are you blowing this much money? If I had to guess, she's probably not blowing all of this money, and this is a clip farm. $120,000 a year from Twitch revenue is a lot of money, and you really don't have to spend that much if you're streaming, especially if you're streaming at the setup. Maybe a little bit more if you're doing IRLs because you have to travel some places, but a little bit more money, definitely not nearly $5,000 per month. Now, where I stand on the conversation is that obviously doing a 9-to-5 job is a lot harder than working as a full-time streamer. I mean, a big reason being that you're really your own boss and you have the freedoms to decide what kind of content you're going to do when you want to do it. You're making way more money. Like, yeah, you have to create content consistently, but you're making way more money than the average person. For bigger content creators, a lot of them are clearing over $100,000 a month. And while you do have to think about ideas and you have to stay sharp so you don't fall behind and things like that, that just means that content creation is hard in its own way, which is why most people aren't able to be successful at it. But as far as which one is harder on your body, your mind, and which one most people would prefer not to do, that's the 9-to-5 job. Because if you took a bunch of big streamers and some 9-to-5 workers and you gave them the option to switch lives with each other, I don't think the streamers would agree to do that. But I guess congrats to Yoxic in this situation. Posted a clip that got 19 million views and rage baited a lot of people on Twitter. We are probably going to keep seeing this convo pop up every few weeks. Which is harder, streaming or doing YouTube versus a 9-to-5? The answer to that question is kind of nuanced, but let's be real, it's the 9-to-5, and there's pretty much nobody who's a big content creator who would switch what they're doing now for a 9-to-5 job. And some people like I Show Speed and Queso are going to be honest and say, yeah, it's harder to work a real job and I definitely prefer streaming. While others like Lacey are going to rage bait and be like, well, have you ever had people spam L's in the chat? Because that's worse than getting screamed at as a fast food worker or walking up and down a warehouse for hours, moving around pallets. Well, that's all I have for this video. If you see these convos, I guess all I can say is try not to fall for the rage bait. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.